Jump down a couple verses. Actually, yeah, a couple verses. Psalm 78:20. Behold, he smote the rock, that the waters gushed out, and the streams overflowed. Can he give bread also? Can he provide flesh for his people? Another reference to what happened with Moses in the desert, in the wilderness. Okay, he smote the rock, a physical rock. The water gushed out and the streams overflowed. Can he give bread also? It's kind of like, I'm trying to make sure I don't lose my place. Okay, can he give bread also? Do you remember, and I'm not going to look it up, but you remember the story of Jesus when he's talking about beware of the bread of the leaven of the Pharisees. I'm paraphrasing, where his disciples think he's mad because they didn't bring bread, and he's like, do you not remember what I did? How I fed the 5,000 and how many baskets were left over and this was left over? It's kind of, to me, I feel the same way with this verse when it's talking about them, that if God can do a great miracle such as that, God will take care of you. Okay, but rock is still a reference to a physical rock. Okay. Psalm 78:35. And they remembered that God was their rock, and the high God their Redeemer, who had to, God, our rock here, is reference to salvation, the foundation of their salvation, their strength. Okay, who had delivered them out of the hands of their enemy. Okay, their strength. Jumping down, Psalms 81:16. He should have fed them also with the finest of the wheat, and with honey out of the rock should I have satisfied thee. Now, we all know it's starting to get hot, so bear with me. I turned on the heater. At night it's getting a little cold here, and my hair's probably not the best. But rock here, honey can't come out of a rock. We all know that. So what's this talking about? Well, I've showed pictures before, and I'll show a picture again, okay? When you're in desert places, where do bees like to do their hives? They'll make hives in rocks, shady areas of the rocks. You heard the story about Samson, where the bees are in the rocks. Saul's son, or not rocks, the lion, a carcass of the lion. And Saul, I think Saul's son also, when Saul forbade anybody to eat, and Saul's son went and dipped his finger in the honey. But this is talking about a physical rock, and beehives are being made in rocks. Now here we're used to beehives being in trees, bushes, and maybe even rocks sometimes, but we don't often think of bees making hives in rocks around here. So it's a good picture, something to learn. Next we're going to Psalms 104:18. The high hills are a refuge for the wild goats, and the rocks for the conies. Okay? It's talking about goats hiding on the hillsides. Once again, God providing a physical refuge and physical rock. Okay? God providing protection, but here in context, even though it has a deeper meaning, it's a physical rock, a mountainside where the goats go. And conies are rabbit-like. They're like rabbits, and they live in the mountainside. So, physical rock. Next one, Psalms 105:41. He opened the rock, and the water gushed out. They ran in the dry places like a river. So this is, like I said, I got back to that study and I was like, I didn't comprehend. Million Jews, million people came, plus more, came out of Egypt. So when Moses is a reference to Moses hitting the rock, and it gushed out in dry places like a river. A lot of water coming out to feed all those people and all the livestock, all the animals. But it's referring to a physical rock. Psalms 89:26. Somehow, I guess we didn't get. Somehow I mixed them up a little bit. But hopefully you guys will bear with me. They got moved around a little bit. So we're jumping backwards to Psalms 89:26. Okay. Going back a little bit. He shall cry unto me, Thou art my Father, my God, and the rock of my salvation. A personal reference for who God is to you. Firm foundation. If you read the verse before and after, it's referring to Jesus. Okay? But once again, anytime it's referencing Jesus as a rock, the rock is a title for God, a personal reference for God. So when it references Jesus as being your rock, whether it's personal or a title, it's saying that He's God. Okay? Psalms 92:15. To show that the Lord is upright, He is my rock, and there is no unrighteousness in Him. Once again, a personal reference to who God is to you. Rock, lowercase r. Strength and stability, foundation. Psalms 94:22. But the Lord is my defense, and my God is the rock of my refuge. Strength means a safety, protection. Okay? God is the rock of my refuge. It's a personal reference to who God is to you. He's the rock of your refuge. Alright. So far, still not a reference to a man. We're going to get to a verse. I just don't want to jump the gun. We're going to get to a verse. Okay? Psalms 94:22. But the Lord is my defense, and my God is the rock of my refuge. Now, before we do anything, I'm going to look at something. So yeah, somehow I just messed up the order. Okay. But the Lord is my defense, and my rock is the God of my refuge. Or my God is the rock of my refuge. Okay. Strength, means of safety, protection, 94:22. Personal reference. Actually, no. I apologize. On that one, rock of my refuge. When it says of my refuge, rock is referring to the refuge part. So it's rock here is talking about strength. Okay, means of safety, protection. So it's not a personal reference to God. It's, even though it's saying my refuge, it's still talking about who He is to you, but as far as refuge. If you can understand what I'm saying, it doesn't mean everything. Foundation, strength, all together as one, as a personal reference to who God is. Psalms 95:1. O come, let us sing unto the Lord. Let us make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation. Rock is a reference to the salvation. So it's strength, shelter, foundation of salvation. Okay? It's not a perfect, because people would nitpick. To me, the rock is referencing the salvation. Okay? It's not a personal reference to Jesus as far as, you personally reference Him, because it doesn't entail all of it. Okay? As about His foundation for salvation, your strength, your shelter. So right here it's talking about rock being the strength of our salvation. It can also be foundation of our salvation. Okay, but rock is a reference to salvation. Right? There's only one rock. Their rock is not like our rock. Right? Psalms 114:8. Let's go to that one. We're finally getting back in order. I kind of screwed up the order of Psalms, so please forgive me. Psalms 114:8. We haven't done that one. Which turned the rock into a standing water, the flint into a fountain of waters. And this is one that I was talking about where it opens your eyes even more. First, the concept that there was 1 million people. Okay? Millions of people that needed water, animals that needed the water. So it wasn't just a small stream or like a faucet where water's coming out and people are walking up in lines to get buckets of water. It's a gushing river. But the other part that made it amazing was the rock was made out of flint. And when you strike flint, what are you supposed to get? Are you supposed to get water? Or are you supposed to get a spark? So once again, God's amazing power is reflected and shown here. So once you get to this point, then you look back and realize, oh, I didn't know it was made out of flint. The rock was. Pretty amazing. You strike a flint rock, you're supposed to get sparks. And now I realize, because you look at it and you're like, why was it okay to strike the rock the first time, but the second time Moses was just to speak to the rock? It was part of the miracle showing God's power and God's might. Okay. We are now done with Psalms. Let's hope nothing else is out of order. Next we're going to go to Proverbs, the book of Proverbs. Okay. Proverbs 30, chapter 30, verse 19. So far we haven't come across anything that's a reference to man being a rock. Okay. The way of an eagle in the air, the way of a serpent upon a rock, the way of a ship in the midst of the sea, the way of a man with a maid. Okay. These are all examples of you can't track somebody when they go this way. When an eagle flies through the air, you don't see the eagle fly through the air and you look up, is it leaving any tracks? There's no tracks for you to follow. Same thing with the way of a serpent upon a rock. When a serpent goes through the sand, you can see tracks. But if there's nothing but like just rocks, solid rocks and everything, you can't tell the serpent went through there. It's talking about a physical rock. Same thing with the ship in the midst of the sea. Okay? Okay. Next, Proverbs 30, verse 26. Jump down a few verses, but like 7 verses. The conies, rabbits again, the conies are but a feeble folk, yet make their houses in the rocks. Physical rock that the rabbits live in. And according to this, only 2 references to rock in the book of Proverbs. If I missed anything, please make comments. If you guys have any input on any of these verses, like you want to talk about it more, going more in depth, then by means, make some comments. I'm glad to talk and fellowship with brothers and sisters in Christ. Now, Songs of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 14. Songs of Solomon's like love songs. This is the only place that has the word rock in the whole Songs of Solomon. O my dove, thou art in the clefts of the rock, in the secret places of the stairs. Let me see thy countenance, let me hear thy voice, for sweet is thy voice, and thy countenance is comely. Now looking into this one, how can you compare a woman being in the clefts of the rocks? But you do some study on it, and I believe what it's referring to is a veil. When you're in the clefts of the rocks, you're hiding. The veil is hiding her face. Because if you keep going in the secret places of the stairs, you can't see those secret places. Let me see thy countenance, the face. Let me hear thy voice. When you have a veil on, it muffles the voice a little bit. So, rock here, the cleft of the rocks, it's actually using, I think I'm using the right word, simile. It's actually the first time that it's a reference to a veil, but it's using cleft of the rock as a simile for a veil. But it's still talking about a physical rock. Okay. Pretty neat and interesting. Okay, now we're going to hit Isaiah. And from my understanding, Isaiah is the last book we're going to do for this part of the study. And this video might be long, so it might be a two-parter, so it'll be part 3 and part 4. Songs of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 14. Okay. O my dove, thou art in the clefts of the rock, in the secret places of the stairs. Let me see thy... Oh. Not paying attention. I apologize. Isaiah, not Songs of Solomon. Isaiah. Isaiah 2, chapter 2, verse 10. Enter into the rock and hide thee in the dust for fear of the Lord and for the glory of his majesty. Enter into the rock. Okay. Isaiah prophesies a lot about what's going on in the time of Jacob's trouble. And a lot of things in the future. And this one says, enter the rock as it was when Rome pagan was destroyed, the kings, princes, and freemen called to the rocks to fall on them to hide them. And there's mention of this in Revelation, where Jesus scatters everybody. Everybody's running saying, rocks fall on us, hide us from the Lord. Like that's really going to hide you from the Lord. Isaiah chapter 2, verse 19. And they shall go into the holes of the rocks and into the caves of the earth for fear of the Lord, and for the glory of his majesty when he ariseth to shake terribly the earth. Once again, hiding from God in Revelations. The rocks here, and I did say it in the last verse, they're both a physical rock representing the mountain come down on you. Holes of the rocks in this one, caves. They're hiding from God. Isaiah 2:21. To go into the clefts of the rocks and into the tops of the ragged rocks for fear of the Lord and for the glory of his majesty when he ariseth to shake terribly the earth. They're hiding from God again, a physical rock. Clefts of the rock, tops of the ragged rocks. Any place where they can hide from God. Okay. Try to keep my place. Isaiah 7, chapter 7, verse 19. And they shall come and shall rest all of them in the desolate valley and in the holes of the rocks and upon all thorns and upon all bushes. I have here notes to see the complete desolation of the land by the Assyrians. But holes of the rocks. It could be an actual hole in the rock, but most times holes in the rocks are reference to caves. So this is a physical rock here. Next one, Isaiah 8:14. And he shall be for a sanctuary, but for a stone of stumbling, and for a rock of offense to both the house of Israel, for a, I hope I'm saying this right, for a gin and for a snare to the inhabitants of Jerusalem. This verse right here is talking about Jesus Christ. Okay? He is the rock of offense to both the house of Israel. Jesus, when he came, who did he offend? Okay. The Sadducees, the Pharisees, and the scribes. And if you read a lot of the mentioning, when it mentions them, it also talks about the elders got together with the scribes, or the elders got together with the Pharisees. So, both the house of Israel, this is talking about Jesus Christ being a rock of offense, the strength and foundation of the offense. He offended people. I know people don't seem to understand that, but he did. Okay. Isaiah 10:26. And the Lord of hosts shall stir up a scourge for him according to the slaughter of Midian at the rock of Oreb, And as his rod was upon the sea, so shall he lift it up after the manner of Egypt. Okay. If you watch my previous studies, the rock of Oreb is an actual place. I want to say hillside or mountain, but it's some kind of formation that sticks out that they designated that place the rock of Oreb. Okay. It's a physical rock. Next one we have Isaiah 17:10. Because thou hast forgotten the God of thy salvation, and hast not been mindful of the rock of thy strength, foundation of thy strength, therefore shalt thou plant pleasant plants, and shall set it with strange slips. Alright. Rock here is a reference to foundation of thy strength. Okay. God is the foundation of my strength. I used to work out at the gym. I don't go there anymore because a lot of the modestly dressed people are there. But I used to work out at the gym and when I was lost. And now that I'm saved, I'm not saying I'm going to take on the world physically, but the strength that God gives you is way better than any strength you can get at the gym. Okay? God needs to be the foundation of your strength. Okay? You can get all beefed up and still lack courage. Make sure God is the foundation of your strength. But rock there in that last verse is a reference to foundation. Okay? Isaiah 22:16. What hast thou here? And whom hast thou here, that thou hast hewed thee out a sepulchre here, as he that heweth him out a sepulchre on high, and that graveth an habitation for himself in a rock. Okay. Self-explanatory to a point, but people think sepulchres are many buildings that you see in graveyards. But if you remember, Jesus was buried in a sepulchre hewn out of rock, and they took a big boulder and rolled in front of it. So this is talking about a mountainside or hillside made of rock, solid rock, and they hewn out a man-made tunnel, as it were, where they bury people. Okay, a tomb made out of the mountain. So this is talking about a physical rock. Okay. Next we have Isaiah 32:2. And a man shall be as an hiding place from the wind, and a covert from the tempest, as rivers of water in a dry place, as the shadow of a great rock in a weary land. The shadow of a great rock. Alright, it's talking about a physical rock. If you're going through the desert and you're hot, great example. I live on the coast and I love walking on the beach, and when it's sunny outside and you get to going for about half an hour, you get hot, you get sweaty. So what do? All behind these rocks there's shade. You find some shade and you sit down, and it's always cool in the shade. You could be sweating in the sun and there could be a breeze and you not even know it. But the moment you sit in the shade, because you're wet with the sweat, that breeze hits you and you feel it. So this is talking about a physical rock, the shade of the rock. Next we have Isaiah 33:16. He shall dwell on high, his place of defense shall be the munitions of rocks. Bread shall be given him, his water shall be sure. Okay, munitions of rocks is a place of defense. Okay. Munitions, plural, means tons of rocks, okay? And I don't know why, but when I read this, it keeps making me think of John the Baptist. When the Pharisees came, but basically said, don't think you have Abraham our father to save us, because with these stones, God is able to raise children of Abraham. And I'm paraphrasing, please forgive me. But it has to do with defense, munition of rocks, defense, okay, protection. If you hide behind a rock, it's protecting you, okay. Isaiah 42:11. Let the wilderness and the cities thereof lift up their voice. The village that Kedar doth inhabit, let the inhabitants of the rocks sing. Let them shout from the top of the mountains. Let the inhabitants of the rock sing. Go ahead. Right there when you see that, let the inhabitants of the rock sing. Let me read this for a second, because I lost my track thing. It's a physical rock. Okay, inhabitants of the rock sing. Part of me makes me think that it's a city of people that dwell in the mountainside and rocks and caves, or because it says of the rock. I think in the past studies, if you watch some of my previous parts to rock study, there's cities that were built on rocks. I mean, they'd have to ship dirt in. Even today, they'd ship dirt in so they could grow things, because the city itself is built on this plateau that's nothing but a rock. So it said, let the habitations of the rock sing. Physical rock. Okay. Next one, Isaiah 48:21. And they thirsted not when he led them through the desert. He caused the water to flow out of the rock for them. He clave the rock also, and the waters gush out. Okay. When it says he caused the waters to flow out of the rock, he clave the rock also, hit the rock. Okay. It's talking about Moses in the wilderness when God performed that miracle for him. I remember the previous verse, it was flint rock, the first rock. It was definitely flint rock. Right. Now, we're at a verse, and some of you that have been paying attention, some of you that have been following along and bearing with me and having patience, probably waiting for me to get to this verse, okay? This blue, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not going to try to deceive you, I'm not going to try to skip the verse. I was so excited about doing a verse saying, hey, rock, the word rock is never a reference to a man. It's only a reference to God, the Father. And when you call Jesus the rock, you're saying he's God, okay? But I came across this verse, Isaiah 51:1. Hearken to me, ye that follow after righteousness, ye that seek the Lord. Look unto the rock whence ye are hewn, and the hole of the pit whence ye are digged. Okay. Look unto the rock whence ye are hewn, which is in the next verse interpreted of Abraham. Okay. The rock whence ye are hewn is talking about Abraham. Okay. God started his chosen people with Abraham. Okay. Some people say not so much for his strength of his faith as for his old age. But no matter how you look at it, rock is a reference here to Abraham. But it is a reference to Abraham being the foundation for their salvation. Personal reference to who God is to them, the foundation for their salvation, their strength, or high tower, place of defense. No, it's simply saying that it started with Abraham. The Jewish people, Israel, God's chosen people, started with Abraham. So this is a big verse. If other people have different things they found about this verse and want to mention it where they think, well, it's not really a reference technically to Abraham, I'd love to hear it. I'm not going to lie to you, but through this study I've still learned that, and we'll get eventually, well, there's going to be one more section after this. We're going to get to the verse where Jesus says, "Thou art Peter, and upon this rock." And I got something very amazing to show you guys, okay? Through this study, going verse or chapter and verse by verse, explaining the definitions, okay? Something physical, whether you're referencing to a rock, mountain, hilltop, physical rock you have in your hand, a stone on the ground you're using as a table, stacking stones. Physical rock, okay? Rock can mean strength, refuge, protection. Okay? Rock can be a reference to foundation. Rock is a title. Capital R rock is a title for God. Lowercase r rock is a personal title, or I almost want to say title, but a personal reference to God, who He is to you personally, or a group of people saying who He is to them personally. Okay? And lowercase r can be, and I found that out in this study, can be a reference to false gods. Okay? So yeah, Grace and Men Sprung. So it's talking about Abraham. The Jewish people started with Abraham, God's chosen people. One more, and we're done with this part of the study. Not this part of the study, but this section. Isaiah 57:5, last reference to rock in Isaiah. Inflaming yourself with idols under every green tree, slaying the children in the valley under the cliffs of the rocks. Okay, cliffs of the rocks. I was looking into this, slaying the children in the valley under the cliffs of the rocks. It's a physical rock cliff, sacrificing children. Baal worship. I'm glad I got to be able to get that off the top of my head. When I was going through this study, I had the hardest time remembering Baal worship. That's why King Solomon, so many people think that King Solomon's not saved. There's an argument back and forth, but towards the end of his life, he interracially married. I'm going to use that word. He married outside of his kindred, and these women that he married from their country worshiped false gods and got him to start worshiping false gods. And when it says he worshipped Baal, this is what was going on. Okay? They were sacrificing babies, children, to a pagan god. Solomon was killing kids and killing his own sons probably. So when it got that bad, the grace was dispensed differently then. So, but that's what's going on here. Okay, it's a physical rock. So, my whole study, like I said, I'm not bummed because I found it and we're trying to preach truth and we're trying to learn truth. It kind of just knocked me over like my house of cards. Because I was hoping to be able to get through the study and say, okay, I know it was long, I know it was drooling, but not once was it a reference to a man. But one time, it was a reference to a man, other than Jesus Christ being God, the Father, which people fight that. If Jesus isn't God, isn't the Father, then He isn't God. There's only one God. And if He's God, then He's the Father. Okay? But yeah, it just... Like I said, once we get to the whole point of the study, I wanted to go in depth. Some people do it quick, some people do it short. I'm just going to pick certain ones and everything. When I do word studies, I want to go in depth and go through each one of them. Now this rock, the whole point of this study, we went through them pretty fast because I wasn't trying to do any in-depth teaching on any individual verse. It was just to get the context of what rock meant under those definitions. Okay? And we're going to get through this. But I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next, it'll be the last part for the rock study. And it's not going to be that long, because there's very few left. But thank you.